Welcome back to NO To Lashon Hara, day 32. Imagine the following scenario. Someone says Lashon Hara, and there's a group of 10 people there, and you're there. Now, you hear two of the people sitting at their table after this, sharing that information with other people. Now, if you're there, and you heard it, and these two people are already sharing it, so one might think that the rule of apet lata, which means, as we explained, that if something is said in front of three people, that at this point, you're allowed to relay that information to other people. Says the Chafetz Chaim, one more condition on top of the conditions that we've learned about previously, and that is, if when the speaker actually told over his listeners the information, he said to them, please don't share this with anybody else, and then he tells 10 people this information, even if you and I would say, if you don't want anyone to know about it, don't share it with 10 people, number one. Number two, what's the likelihood that all 10 people are not going to say it just because the person said, please don't share with anybody else? Nevertheless, the halacha is, the Chafetz Chaim explains, that once the person has requested specifically that people don't repeat it, we lose the idea of apet lata. What is astonishing is that the Chafetz Chaim explains that that's even true if two or more of the listeners have already ignored the instruction. So even if three people said it, or four people said it over, so you'd think it's obvious that apet lata applies. That idea is not necessarily the case, because if he's asked you specifically to keep it silent or to keep it secret, there's an additional layer obstructing your ability to be able to communicate the information. Now, since we've entered into this topic, the idea of information that was shared in confidence, let's widen this perspective just a little bit more, because we've been talking about Lashon Hara, but let's say it's not Lashon Hara. Let's just talk about a regular piece of information that was told to you in confidence. Someone says, please don't tell anyone, I'm looking to buy this house. That doesn't sound like bad information. Doesn't sound like avak Lashon Hara, negative information. It doesn't sound like excessive information. The house may not be so beautiful, and still there's a logic where you cannot say that information. So let's give the first example. The first way that confidential information can be very dangerous for the person who shared it with you, if you reveal it, is imagine someone else scoops the house that they were about to buy. Now they lost that house because you shared that piece of confidential information. Obviously, information today in our society is so heavily guarded because we know the damage that can happen when someone's personal information is leaked or given out to somebody else. Another example of a negative fallout from sharing confidential information might be in the feelings that it hurts. So imagine, as an example, you tell someone that this person is thinking about buying a house, and they're like, "What? I can't believe it. That's such a good friend of mine. How could it be that she told you that she's buying the house and they didn't tell me?" Now their feeling is hurt. Now you've caused a machloket between these two friends because they told you in confidence that they wanted to buy the house. A third example of negative fallout from confidential information might be, even if the person didn't tell you, please keep it a secret. Even if it's just personal information that you really don't need to be sharing. So someone shares with you that they're going on vacation, a beautiful vacation to some distant country, and you just casually mention in conversation to a third person, "Oh, I just was speaking to this person and they're going on this beautiful vacation. I'm so happy for them." And that person actually is now furious. Why? Because unbeknownst to you, they actually had asked that person to lend them money to start a business venture. And the person said to them that they couldn't lend them the money because they didn't have any spare money lying around. Next thing they hear is that this person is going on a vacation. Now, it might be a person's prerogative to choose to spend their money on whatever they want, but now that I'm hearing this, and she told me or he told me that they didn't have any spare money, now they're going on vacation, now I'm furious, I don't even want to talk to them. So confidential information has a way of boomeranging in a negative way, even when we have no negative intention, even when the information is not negative. Personal information is just that, personal. You don't share information about someone else unless there's a specific reason that you need to, and only if it is a specifically constructive reason, and only if the person has not asked you to keep it in confidence. Now, if someone said in front of three people, I'm going on vacation, you don't have to worry about sharing that with somebody else, because the same way the law of apet lata tells us that that information is expected to get out. So if someone shares with you information that's not negative, using the guidelines, the idea behind apet lata, you know that I'm sharing something that anyway is going to get out. And therefore, information which is not negative, which is personal, but was not asked specifically to keep quiet, but it was said in front of 3 people, one would be allowed to share that information. We're seeing yet again how refined a person needs to be when they think about shmirat halashon and protecting their tongue, because of how simple mistakes might cause a tremendous amount of harm that's just unnecessary. Watching what you speak saves so much pain and difficulty down the road.